So there's a major rumor floating over the internet that Sony and Marvel Studios are at odds at what the Spider-Man 4 storyline should be. The rumor suggests that Sony wants another big multiverse Spider-Man movie, while Marvel Studios and Tom Holland want to keep things grounded. So normally I wouldn't pay too much attention to such rumors, but based on the very little details we have about this situation already, and taking into consideration what we know about these two companies, this sounds entirely possible. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
So for a while, it seemed like Spider-Man 4 with Tom Holland's incarnation of the character might not happen at all. We even had Tom Holland himself talk about taking a break from acting and possibly other actors picking up the mantle.
It's Hollywood, baby. Who knows what's gonna happen?
But based on the ending of No Way Home, things were left wide open for his version of the character to finally have a more traditional solo film that he never really got. It was a golden opportunity to write him out of the MCU, where he's always felt like more of a sidekick, even in his own films, than he did the hero that he should have been from the very beginning. I'm on record as saying the final moments of No Way Home is the first time that Tom Holland's Spider-Man actually felt like the Spider-Man I know and love. Fast forward to present day, and insider Daniel Reichman, via comicbookmovie.com, shared some interesting rumors about a potential Spider-Man 4. According to Daniel, Sony wants to replicate some of No Way Home's box office glory by making Spider-Man 4 another huge multiverse adventure. The studio is reportedly also keen on bringing back Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's respective Spider-Mans for another crossover with Tom Holland's Wallcrawler. However, Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige and Holland are eager for Spider-Man 4 to be more grounded, similar to the first two entries in Holland's trilogy. I want to start this off by reiterating that these are rumors and should be taken with a grain of salt at this time. But if in fact they do end up being true, I happen to agree with Marvel Studios in this particular situation.
My, how the tables have turned.
Let's start with Sony and their desire to replicate the success of No Way Home. They're basically just going to run it back and do all the same things again. From a creative perspective, Sony is lost right now. They might actually be more lost than Marvel Studios themselves, which is saying something. If their upcoming releases like Madam Web or Kraven the Hunter are any indication, to me it's very clear that they have no idea what they are doing with the Spider-Man and Friends IP. I always thought that Marvel Studios was the shining example of a studio making films that nobody asked for. And then Sony comes along and says, hold my soy latte. It's entirely possible that in a year where the MCU is finally scaling things back as far as releases go, Sony is doing everything in its power to put the final nail in the Marvel cinematic coffin.
Game over, man. It's game over.
To be clear, I think a clashing of ideas and them finding a way to work this out, because they both share this IP, could be a good thing. In a normal situation, that might ensure us that we aren't going to get the same formulaic But this isn't a normal situation, and Sony's desire to go big, once again with Spider-Man 4, tells me a few things about this situation. For one, it tells me they don't have a lot of confidence in Tom Holland carrying this film on his own. And two, they got the impression with No Way Home that cameos, Easter eggs, references, and the multiverse concept was basically going to be a sure thing. To Sony at this point, they probably don't feel like they need the best story possible for Spider-Man 4, because they are looking to bring back member berries that they can dangle in front of the audience's face and distract them. Little do they know, interest in multiverse films and cash grab comic book movies in general is dwindling.
It's true.
Having Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield possibly return isn't going to have the same impact it had the first time. The whole appeal of No Way Home was seeing these characters return after a long hiatus. And once that initial hype wears off, you then have to find other ways to attract audiences and keep their attention. And I believe the best way to do that is not with gimmicks, but by telling the best solo Spider-Man story possible.
That makes sense.
And then we have Marvel Studios, who wants Spider-Man 4 to be a bit more grounded. It makes sense considering they are probably tired of losing money on movies that they fork way too much money out to make in the first place. Plus, we've seen their recent push for grounded content with projects like Echo and the upcoming Daredevil Born Again. And again, I agree that the next Spider-Man movie should be a bit more grounded. The issue for me is that I don't have a ton of confidence in Marvel Studios to pull this off creatively. Now, this next part could potentially be a spoiler for Spider-Man 4, so you have been warned.
You have that luxury. You have the luxury of not knowing what I know.
There's a rumor floating around that Kingpin may possibly play a role in Spider-Man 4. Now, the thought of Spider-Man and Kingpin finally sharing the screen together sounds great on paper. The issue is that the MCU has already made Vincent D'Onofrio's incarnation of this character feel significantly less important. It's hard to fathom a situation where this Kingpin would feel like a threat to Spider-Man after he basically just got owned by Echo. Plus, I heard yet another rumor, and again, potential spoilers here, that Daredevil himself could show up in Spider-Man 4 to help Spider-Man defeat Kingpin in the finale.
Oh, there's a big surprise!
Now, there's a few issues with that idea. Again, is Kingpin formidable enough to warrant a team-up between Daredevil and Spider-Man? And two, if this were to happen, it would basically reinforce everybody's thoughts that Tom Holland's Spider-Man cannot stand on his own. Always a bridesmaid, never a bride. Tom Holland's Spider-Man is never going to beat these sidekick allegations. And again, if all of this happens, we would once again be relying on cameos to prop this film up. When we all know that shouldn't be necessary when you have an iconic character like Spider-Man at your disposal. If you were to ask me what I would do with Spider-Man 4, I would go with a more grounded approach. But I most certainly would not include characters in this movie that we've seen before. To me, this movie needs to be Tom Holland's Spider-Man establishing himself solo. He no longer has the benefit of advanced tech suits and superpowered friends to help him out of situations. He's alone now. He's without MJ, he's without Aunt May, and he needs to figure some things out. And this is the perfect moment for him to come up against a villain that is more technologically and physically advanced than he is. And I'm thinking a character like Scorpion would fit that bill nicely. Plus, you could have the added wrinkle of J. Jonah Jameson possibly hiring Scorpion to go after Spider-Man.
You serious?
This would force Peter to go through the trials and tribulations that are common in most heroes' journeys. He now has to find a way to adapt and overcome on his own when the odds are stacked against him and his city. To me, this is what is going to make this character and this movie much more relatable. And this is how you would successfully silence some of Tom Holland's Spider-Man's critics, including myself. Whatever happens, I don't really have a ton of faith in either studio at this point to do something satisfying, because they both seem to be more interested with delivering cheap thrills than actually telling a good story.
Y'all be cool. Right on.